What are all these moves signaling for the crypto space, but also what do they signal for the broader market? Steve, you've been on this bandwagon for a long time now.
Yeah, so obviously this is the most crypto-friendly administration and it's in its infancy. If you look at it, if you pull it back a little bit. So we have the Genius Act, we have the Clarity Act. If you look at the old SEC, they ran through enforcement versus regulatory. This one's running through regulatory clarity versus enforcement. And I don't want to say anything is possible or anything is going to be allowed. But if you have it gauged as a commodity versus a security, it does open up a lot of possibilities for you. So when you look at the estimates on price, there are people who think this goes to 200,000 this year. We only have a handful of months.
Are you?
I am a firm believer that it's going much, much higher from here. Think about corporate adoption. Corporate adoption is probably only about 2%. Central banks, only about 3%. Those are both going higher, much higher. Retail investors going much higher. So look at it through, I'll leave off with this. Look at it through the market cap of Bitcoin. That's around 2 trillion, let's say. Look at the market cap of gold. That's around 20 trillion. Maybe it doesn't have to be gold, but if it closes the gap to 50%, you're looking at $500,000 per Bitcoin. And I do think that in the iShot, you're looking at 250, 350,000 pretty easily for crypto. There's a couple of things, a couple of hurdles, but I think those days of it losing 80% of its value and then rallying up are long gone. There's too many people that are looking for the asset.
So it's smoothed out in terms of the volatility. What do you think, Karen? Or do you think a lot of these gains that we have witnessed so far is everything that Stephen mentioned except pulled forward and set at this price?
I'm sorry. Say that again. Do I agree with everything Steve's mentioned?
No, I mean, yeah.
Yes.
A lot of
basically, yes. Absolutely. Is that already in?
Yes.
Is that already priced in?
With everything Steve mentioned since he's been on the show.
Yeah, okay.
I mean,
we'll have to go back for a long time. Yeah, we'll get to MP later. But I think that there was some hype going into this week and excitement there. I don't know if this particular part is a buy the rumor, sell the news. One other thing that I think might be underpinning it somewhat, to the extent that Bitcoin is a play on the lack of discipline, right, of the Fed, of the government. And here we're in this situation where we the idea of the independence of the Fed is at question. That, to me, is somewhat supportive of Bitcoin as well. Now, maybe that's cooled a little bit in the last day. I don't know. But I do think, though, that the down 80%, that kind of thing, I think is not on the table anymore unless somehow it gets displaced. But I'm staying long. I'm not looking to take any off the table.
You know, Steve mentions the math behind it. I mean, that is the math. Gold's around $20 trillion. I think Bitcoin itself maybe close to 3-ish. So, you know, even half of that, again, you can do the math. Bitcoin goes from 120 to maybe 360, 400. So there are people out there that believe that for a long time, and seemingly it's playing out right before our eyes. I think one of the other factors, and, you know, Karen mentioned undisciplined. I think this rhetoric around Jerome Powell, or this renewed rhetoric about getting him out, having him resign, whatever it is, firing him. I think Kevin Hassett was on the show this morning talking about the president can fire the Fed chief, the Fed chair. That is true, but it's only for cause. But, you know, seemingly everything is cause in today's world. So I think part of this rally is predicated on that as well.
Then you just add in the limited supply. And so this is not a case where, you know, this is not a fiat currency. There's not unlimited printing presses. And this is, again, part of the reason why Bitcoin has caught fire in the last 5 years. I mean, a lot of this is not an overnight development. But as we're pointing to Washington, and this is crypto week, and this is the crypto president, this is a dynamic that has been building over time. And it's a case that I think actually is representative of what central banks are doing with gold. And, you know, we talked about this, that gold is actually a bigger reserve in the ECB than the euro is. So central banks, I'm not so sure ready, but I do think we've said this all along also. The more regulation you have around Bitcoin and around the infrastructure and the infancy is what gives a green light to institutional investors. And make it clear, this is institutional investors that are doing this. And these ancillary plays, like I'm long Coinbase. It's hard for me to justify the valuation, but it's not just the on-ramp. I think Base is a major infrastructure platform for cryptocurrencies. I do think there are dynamics here that will continue. This would not be happening if the markets were not at all-time highs. Let's be clear.
Right.